and welcome back to another episode of the Rake. We have shaken things up. If you didn't catch the last pod, Marley Cordero has left, and we have found Ben Wilinofsky as the new co-host. We want to ease him into this with no pressure, so we decided our first guest should be a guy who could fire him on the spot. We have Phil Galfond with us today. How's it going, Phil?
Oh, it's going well, Jamie. Thanks for having me and for keeping Ben on his toes.
Yeah. I wanted to intro Ben real quick, just with Ben's an OG poker player. If anyone doesn't know him, amazing Twitter follow. He has 1.6 million in live earnings, but he tends to disappear from poker for a year or two at a time to do some writing and other things. So Ben, do you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. I am happy to be here. Phil, thank you for paying us to talk to you. This is especially heartening for me because growing up, I always thought I would have to be on the other end of that transaction. So I'm just, happy to be here.
So Phil, you're coming off another amazing win. I know you've been on other pods you've listened to talking about the challenge, but do you want to just give a quick recap? It was another VeniVidi type situation. I don't know how anyone could ever feel comfortable with a lead against you ever again. But what was it like with Chance? Did it meet your expectations, or what surprised you about the challenge?
I was surprised by a few things, and this is my strategy to make sure nobody gets in a good mindset while they're playing me at any point, regardless of what's happening. So we started the challenge, and I won a quick, I want to say 250, 300K at the start, and then proceeded to go on a 650K downswing. This is a 100, 200, so it's good. 30 buy-ins plus is significant. And he had the lead there. And then kind of it was straight up from there throughout. And then he called it at about 25,000 hands of the 35,000 when he hit a stop loss that he had set because he had sold a package. Mm-hmm. Anyways, he played a lot better than I thought, and in different ways than I thought he would. So I kind of expected that he'd be studying solvers and would come in and try to, and it would be a question of really how close he came to optimal strategy. But once we were playing a little bit, it became clear to me that he was not attempting to play an optimal strategy. He was playing a strategy that was kind of population exploity, and perhaps exploiting in my tendencies. I know that he's said he's studied the VeniVidi match quite a bit. So I don't know what the prep was, but I was caught off guard definitely by the way that he played, and I think.
Yeah, I saw you mention that that he tested you in ways that helped you kind of grow your game. Talk a little bit about things that you feel have improved in your game, and is that like a motivation to do these challenges, to take on tough players and improve yourself? I know back in the day there used to be a lot of heads up for rolls and battling amongst the top players, and it seems like that's died off in the game a little bit as edges kind of shrink and people have become more protective of kind of their income and less willing to battle it out in uncertain spots to kind of grow themselves.
Yeah, I think, well, you touched on a few interesting things. So let me see if I can remember all of them, because I have a lot to say. I think, first of all, the ways in which he tested me, there are some spots where, I don't know, I'd feel very comfortable making a thin value raise because nobody ever rebluffs. And he was taking all those spots. He was bluffing all those spots a lot more than most people do. He's also using a lot of small sizings in spots where most people don't. And that included, really what it was is he was raising or betting small sizings on boards that are difficult to defend. And a lot of people that don't use those sizings don't really punish you if your checking range is a little bit out of whack and isn't ready to handle quarter pot. Like you 3-bet flop and check flop, and most people only have a half pot sizing or larger, and then you face quarter pot and you haven't prepared a checking range that can defend that enough. And he was definitely doing that mostly on boards that were tough to defend, like paired boards and monotone boards and things like that. But yeah, there were just a lot of spots where I really had to dig deep to defend enough. And I had to make sure I was kind of planning appropriately and checking hands that could respond to different bet sizes.
Do you find that that kind of strategy does better against you when your focus is waning? Because it's something that takes you out of your comfort zone that you don't see a lot. And I find when I play against those strategies, when I'm not retired, that I can give up too much to unusual strategies if I'm just kind of sliding into my defaults a little bit and not optimally focused. Was that an issue with kind of these long, like I think some of your sessions were like 6 hours long. Did you find that there were waxes and wanes in your play with your focus where he was kind of beating you a little bit more when you weren't as tuned in?
Definitely. And I mean, yeah, I agree completely that styles like that really challenge you to play your A game. And that's why I would say halfway through the challenge, I almost entirely stopped focusing on any kind of study of, any kind of solver study, really any study of his tendencies. I mean, just a little bit, and focused on making sure I was well rested, making sure I relaxed before every session, because it became clear to me that coming into a session with focus was the most important thing.
How do you do that? How do you take care of that between sessions, especially when you're playing, like I said, these marathon 6-hour sessions? I've
personally rarely struggled with long sessions. I
say marathon 6-hour sessions because I'm an hour and a half guy tops, and I see these guys doing like 30 hours live sessions or whatever, and it would actually kill me. So it's
I think in that way we're built a little differently. I don't have a problem with long sessions. I do sometimes, like some days I just don't have it. I don't have the focus, and others I do. And so my goal was to have focus more often. And I guess, I mean, it's really hard to get data that is useful on, what you're eating, what kind of like what you're putting yourself through regarding like how much you're studying, how much stress you're under, and how that translates to finding focus. I mean, it's a topic people talk about a lot, and it's hard to figure out. But the main thing I did was make a concerted effort to, we started at 10:30 a.m. I wake up 6 to 7 because I'm a dad now, and really just focused on the 4 hours before the session on just being relaxed and not doing anything too mentally draining. I would do a little bit of studying, but it would be like passively replaying a session and watching the hands. And so it was just, a lot of relaxing is what I think helped me focus more consistently.
I wanted to pivot and talk about Farah a little bit. How does she celebrate the end of a Galfond challenge? You've been spread kind of thin when you're doing these challenges, and she's been very vocal on Twitter, especially during the VeniVidi challenge. Is there something after? Do you have a huge date? Does she just get to do whatever she wants for a whole week? Like, how does Farah celebrate when you win one of these?
Well, I think I'm now realizing that maybe not thoughtful enough. Because there's really none of that. Like when I won the VeniVidi challenge, obviously that was a very emotional and intense challenge and conclusion to the challenge. So I mean, we had a drink together, and because I don't drink during the challenges, no, I mean, nothing really. I just, especially there, we were in Vancouver for a limited amount of time. I just, was ready to play the next as soon as I could. Mm-hmm. This Chance challenge, I don't know. I mean, I spent more days off. So I usually take 1 day off a week to spend with the family. And Farah's very understanding and lets me do that so I can keep up with work and poker. I mean, I took, a few days off, I'm working a little bit less since then, but we haven't done anything celebratory.
Did you smash an extra Halo top?
Yeah. Yeah.
Colin, our video editor, says that when he stayed with you, your fridge was completely filled with LaCroix and your freezer was completely filled with Halo Top. And that's what you do. You just go back and forth. Is that how you keep a well-oiled machine like you running? It's just Halo Top and LaCroix?
Yeah, exactly. And the most people, when they say that, there'd be some exaggeration, but he's not. It's completely filled, and it's we have pretty big fridge and freezer.
Nice.
Were you popping more of the Halo Tops during the VeniVidi challenge than other ones when you got to kind of that trough at the bottom there?
Yeah, I guess so.
Wait, do they have Halo Top in Canada? Was that like a struggle for you? Was that why the first challenge started so badly?
Farah would say the first challenge started so badly. She thinks we had COVID before then, right before the challenge started.
Oh, interesting.
Which I disagree with, but or I think it was improbable. But yeah, they do have Halo Top in Canada. It was behind like a year or two, the US, and it's different ingredients. So it's
Oh no! It really just throws you off your Zen balance.
It does, exactly. Yeah. So that's probably the adjustment period was tough, and that's what it was.
I remember seeing when you crossed that line on VeniVidi, Farah posted her reaction on Twitter, and it seemed like a really emotional moment for you guys. Does the family stuff, and with Spencer, your son now, kind of put poker in perspective for you a little bit? Does it give you something to play for, where before it might have just been numbers on numbers in the account going up, but now do you think about it more in terms of your family's future at all, or are you still able to detach from the money and kind of what it means?
I'm still able to detach. I think I view it kind of similarly. And I think it's important too. I mean, it's good to have perspective, especially when things are going poorly. But I think that I don't know. It's funny because I've for a long time talked about life balance, and I do think it's, important to an extent, but you also, I think, need some level of obsession if you want to really push yourself and really, I don't know, reach your potential. And so I don't know. I find that, if I, go back 10 years to being single, I would have more time focused on the obsession, but the obsession in the hours that I have to focus on is still just as intense.
Okay. Yeah. I think there's a compulsiveness to get to the top, especially if you don't have it, somebody else does, right? In these competitive endeavors, you're stacking yourself up against everyone else. And so the most compulsive people who are working the hardest on it are usually going to rise to the top. Sorry, I cut you off, Jamie.
Oh, no, actually, I was going to pivot to something, but I think this is really interesting because Phil actually just put out a tweet looking for more challengers and then put out another tweet with crickets. How good does that make you feel? Because setting that up, if I'm sitting at 1-2 online and nobody wants to play me, I'm like, I'm the king of the world. No one's sitting me. I'm so good. It feels really good. This is like a challenge for millions of dollars against pretty much anyone in the world, and nobody's lining up to play you. I know you're not an ego person, but that has to make you feel pretty good, right?
Sort of. So the thing is, I'm asking them to most of the people that would play me. I know there are people who would play me, and they're all out of the US, I think. And so mostly in Europe. And so I think it's not that surprising that they don't want to, fly to COVID capital and I don't even know. Yeah. And set up in a house that's not theirs and play a long extended challenge. So it doesn't necessarily mean to me that I've reached the top. I think there's probably a list of maybe 5 guys who I think would give me action in a challenge.
Do you want to name them?
Well, okay. I just said I was thinking 5, but let me see. I don't know. I don't know if Sauce would or not, but he's one of the ones I'm most worried about playing. So he should want to. Very Sweet, obviously plays everybody at every game. It seems. Am So Good is definitely a top
Was he
PLO
on
player.
the docket already at some point? I feel like there was some discussion of him.
We played
so
there was a mini challenge on Stars that was like 200, 400, and we've talked a lot. He was on the docket. Linus Love, probably. I don't know. He was interested in half a while ago, but I don't know. He plays a lot of people in PLO, so I think he might. Mm-hmm. So that's 4.
Yeah.
I don't know. So like, I mean, Ben Tollerine, I think he probably feels the like we're too close of friends to battle like this, but he is really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think there are a few more out there, but that's all I can think of.
Okay,
right
so we have 5 guys, and if your name wasn't on that list, you should take it as a personal insult from Phil.
Right.
all you guys out there who Phil thinks he's better than you if you aren't one of those 5 guys. So step into the ring. Let's see what you got.
I can't believe after the intro where I said Phil could fire you on the spot that you're taking this line. This is very aggressive.
Have you ever seen me play poker?
Yes. It's terrible.
Yeah, for me too. So pivoting back to family and fatherhood, in the middle of this challenge, Chance had his first child. I know you guys, you said that you were talked a little bit off the table as well, and Chance seemed fairly upbeat. His mood was good. Did you have any advice for him on fatherhood? And, given how important and valuable that sort of piece of your life is, what % rake back would you equate that advice to on the $1 million he just handed you?
I did. I definitely gave him some unsolicited advice and answered some questions too. I think one thing I said, because he, before they had their baby, he was saying, obviously he was very nice about it. He was like, is it okay if, cause he said he would play until like his wife was cool with them playing until, it was time to go to the hospital. And he was like, is it cool if she's going into labor, if I just leave the session without penalties? I was like,
hey, Phil,
priorities, buddy.
Is it okay if I take a break to procreate real quick?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
So I said, yeah, that was okay. But he was saying also,
so wait, he didn't bring the laptop to the hospital in the car with him?
No, and it's messed up, right?
Sean Deeb would have for sure.
Yeah. So with that, I told him, because he expected that after the baby, he would get back to it. After the baby was born, he'd get back to it pretty quickly. And I said, the first month was kind of the most exhausting month of my life. Mm-hmm. And if he wanted to take an extended break, that'd be fine with me. And he just said, no, we have a nanny lined up for the first month. So I want to get my hands in then. So I don't know. I gave him the advice of taking a month off, but he's just ready to keep battling.
Yeah. Emily is also like the chillest human being on the planet. I could just hear her be like, just play poker. It's fine. We just have a baby to take care of every minute of every day.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Did you notice any change in the challenge once he had the baby? Were you guys playing shorter sessions? Was he like playing different? Was he not battling as hard because he wasn't getting any sleep? Or
he did at one point request a few days off, because they didn't have a nanny for a little while. I don't know what happened exactly, but I just gave, because he said basically can't sleep at all because we don't have a nanny right now. But no, it's really hard to tell, because around that time and a little before that time, I started running very good. And it definitely, for a while, against him more than against most people, or more than anybody I can remember, there were times where it felt like really hard to win and times where it felt really easy. And so it was at that point in the challenge, I was just running well, and it felt kind of easy, but I don't think I noticed, particular strategic changes, or like I didn't sense that he was less focused. I just, I don't know, the cards were coming, basically.
Yeah. I find coming over from Hold'em, and I played a little bit of PLO, I find it like much more difficult to tell kind of, or to quantify how well I'm running. I feel like, the combinatorics just get exponentially more complex, and it can be kind of difficult to tell sort of even what part of your range you're in terms of how high up you are. I mean, you can sort of guesstimate, but it's a lot less precise than in Hold'em, I find. At least for me, probably less so for you. And so, it can just be tough to kind of tell like how bad or good you're running when you run, a hand into a part of your range into a part of your opponent's range, and you're not really sure where you guys are or what percent of their range you're running into that's better than you. So I guess I just wanted to ask, on a scale from 1 to 10, how many dicks was Chance left with in his hand at the end of the challenge?
It's really hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. I only kind of have, I think that, cause I don't play much No Limit. So I kind of feel, I think how you feel about PLO, I would feel about No Limit. It's hard for me to tell the difference between the differences, but I do in PLO, as you alluded to, I do have a rough idea of where I'm at in my range and what I run into.
You think that's just a game experience thing? Like when you pick up, I think you've played some mixed games. You won, wasn't one of your bracelets in Deuce 7? Is that right?
Yeah, single draw. Yeah.
Do you have more difficulty telling how you're running when you pick up a game that you're less experienced in like that? Even if is single draw even combinatorically less complex than PLO? I don't know. Probably not.
It's probably less complex just because all deuces are the same as each other. Essentially, all threes are the same as each other. So there are fewer hand combinations. But well, yeah, I don't know. I have a good feeling in PLO what ranges look like, and in every other game I do not.
Okay.
So obviously Ben's referencing some of the DNEG blow-ups that are just getting increasingly more weird, and including sausages and, vegan sausage maybe. I don't know what he's getting at, but kind of a good
No, it's
parlay into
specifically
this whole
beefy.
beef sausage.
Yes.
Awesome. But yeah, I'm kind of tired of hearing about it, but getting into the Doug versus DNEGs challenge, Doug gave you an awesome compliment during his stream where you actually had to come in and arbitrate a decision. Doug said, when I was thinking about who to pick as an arbitrator for any kind of rules things we need to discuss, I thought of Phil Galfond, and then I thought of, hey, he's our biggest competitor at Run It Once, and I still want to pick Phil if Phil will do it. And he said that he just trusts you inherently, and couldn't say nicer things about you. That said, is it really annoying when you're just having a day, you're commentating on Joey's stream, you're having a good time, when you have to stop everything and listen to Daniel whine?
I don't know. I don't know if I would have put it that way, but you did. It's funny. It was
here at the new Rake, we are putting it that way permanently. Yeah. That's our new brand.
Yeah.
The Rake, putting it that way. It's funny. I think that if I were not commentating and not watching the stream that day, I probably would have been like, I think I actually was a little bit annoyed because it was, I was commentating and the action was going really slowly. And it was like, it's my first time commentating on Joey's stream. And I was going to have, thought it was going to be fun, and it was getting really boring. So I was a little bit annoyed there. And then I had to stop and take the call. So I actually think maybe I would have been, I was probably.
So you think you weren't unbiased?
Yeah, I think I was a little
biased. Because you were already annoyed at Daniel. Yeah. It was a poor pick of arbitrator.
Yeah. Yeah. But I didn't really make a decision on that call. It was a frustrating call. So I've had 2 calls with them. One was at the beginning about charts and about not charts at that point. It was about like what you can track and what you can't track, things like that. And it's a little bit frustrating because I don't do that much talking on them. as you might imagine.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to just say, I'm sure Doug was whining as well. I'm just extremely biased. So that's how I'm framing it.
Yeah. Anyways, it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah.
But that one was tough because it was like, I was feeling a lot of pressure too, because we were mid-session and I was on stream and I basically said, let's figure this out later and let's be kind of reasonable for the rest of the stream. And
does that work with those two?
It did. Actually, I was a little bit surprised that I was like, how about just today, play your buttons fast, Daniel, and we'll just deal with it later. And you can do whatever you want in your big blind. And they're just both like, okay, cool. And I was having a discussion on that call when Doug was talking to me about, he thinks it's not in the spirit of the game or the spirit of the bet to play really slowly. I was saying to him, well, what am I supposed to, what would you suggest that the rule is, or what would you suggest the punishment is for taking over 14 seconds on this spot, or, because it's a difficult thing to set a rule for. And he just said, well, if you just tell us what to do, we'll just do it because we agree you're the arbitrator. But I always like to have clear rules and a consequence, like.
Right. You have to have a clear consequence for breaking the rule. It's not enough to say this is the rule, because then if they just don't do it,
Yeah.
I think we've all learned from the past 4 years of politics in the US that you can have a rule, but if there's no clear process for what happens when you just ignore it, things go really badly, really fast.
Yeah. So it's a tough spot, and I'm glad that Doug just was like, all right, I'll just raise, and it seems like that'll happen for a while.
Wasn't that shocking? I talked to him after the match and he just said, he was like, yeah, I prepared a strategy where I could have some limps and they probably were going to be good for my game because it was shaking things up so much with Daniel. And he's like, I was willing to forego it just to not have to spend an extra 40 hours playing this challenge. He's like, it was making me insane watching the time tick down and then watching him make his decision. And he said, I would rather just lose out on some small amount of EV and let him have his way, just to not maximize my, I think that's insane. I was like, I've never seen Doug just concede anything and give someone their way, but I don't know, apparently he did a reasonable thing in response. So I don't know what you did, but you're just I don't know.
No, I had nothing to do with that. And I was shocked by it too, because if I were in that spot, I would not have given in. Mm-mm. I know that there's no way I would have just taken the pain.
Yeah.
You can't let the terrorists win, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's un-American is what it is.
But Doug is right that he increased his happiness EV and EV, hourly and whatever else. He made the right decision for him, and a mature decision. But I would have.
I was surprised by that too.
Yeah.
I think he hates poker way more than any of us could possibly understand. And he just realized that it's 40 more hours.
Whoa, I'm on my fourth retirement, right?
I know, but I'm telling you, I think you hate it less than him.
Okay.
My read.
We interrupt this podcast with an important message from our sponsors at Run It Once.
How well did the last poker site you signed up for treat you? Whether you just play for fun or working hard towards becoming a big winner or are already playing professionally, we want to help you get the most out of your play at Run It Once. From now until the end of February, each new player at Run It Once Poker gets the following: your pick between our From the Ground Up No Limit Cash course, PLO course, or brand new Sit and Go course, 4 weeks of double cash bonuses from our already generous Legends Rewards program, followed by another 4 weeks of 1.5 times your Legends rake back, up to 3 months of Run It Once Training's Essential membership, and up to €100 in free Sit and Go tickets. This is, of course, on top of our 100% welcome bonus. I've been playing online poker for 17 years, and I've never been offered anywhere close to this much to sign up for a poker site. Want to take advantage? Head to runitonce.eu, click download, make your first deposit by the end of February, and you're in. It's really that simple.
And now, back to the pod.
I wanted to go back to something you said, because you mentioned that there was some discussion about charts at the beginning of that challenge. I wanted to get your take on the issue of real-time assistance, from the background of you own and operate a poker site. And this is kind of a really big issue, especially at higher stakes now, or at least it's an issue that we hear a lot about and we're not really maybe sure how big it is. But anytime there's a lot of money involved, you can bet that people are going to, try to skirt the rules to get more of it. How do you feel about the steps that Run It Once, the poker site, is taking to deal with it? And how do you feel about the industry in general and the future of dealing with real-time assistance?
I think the future is brighter than a lot of people think. And the reason I believe that is that it's, for a while, if we go back 10 years, then computers are going to advance, solvers, bots are going to advance and get better at poker. And that kind of created this challenge for the industry. But, will bots, get better at playing over the next 10, 20 years? Slightly. But, in 2021, any reasonable bot is better than any human. And so we're not going to see a lot of advancement strategically from these people trying to skirt the rules. And so to me, that means that the sites, from here, the sites with technology advancing are going to close the gap more and more because the kind of whatever sites want to use to over time, analyze the data and stop these people. I think that they're going to catch up faster than, like, there's not as much room for the bots to advance.
Different concerns? How good the bot is at executing poker decisions versus how good it is at hiding from the sites? I would think that the opposite would be true, that if the bots kept getting better and better and skyrocketing way past what any human player was capable of, it would be easier to spot them than if they are sort of capped at better, but with some closer degree of comparison. Because if they just kept going forever, then the win rates that were unachievable by humans would be the bots.
Yeah, I think, I guess we're talking about a scenario that couldn't happen because they can't get so much better that they're, winning 100 BB per 100 or anything like that. But yeah, your point is good that the way that they can advance in technology is skirting detection further. I think that's tough to do because the only real way, the only real way I can think of, other than because the bots that are kind of to be worried about now are real-time assistants, that they're humans clicking and looking at something. So it's not as if there's, a way for the bot to actually operate the mouse better. They can get better in terms of deviating their strategy, I suppose, to be hard to track. But I really think that, a lot of the reasons that bots get caught have to do with, accounts and financial transactions and IP addresses and things like that. Mm-hmm. And obviously there's statistical analysis, and I guess that's what they could get better at skirting, is adjusting their play so that they don't look like other bots. But I think the challenge, they'll always be, the challenge for bots will always be, there'll be a few, but the way you catch most is that there's a bot ring, or there are a lot of people using a very similar bot, and you can compare the statistics and they're very similar. The way that people get away with it generally is an individual high stakes player has a developer build him his own unique bot, or is using whatever kind of real-time assistance. And those are the ones that are a lot tougher to catch. And actually, a lot of times the high stakes community discusses suspicions about an individual person, and that's how things potentially come out. As far as Run It Once, what we did from the start as we were building the site is keep bot prevention in mind. And so I think where we've really succeeded is with things like Splash the Pot is the most obvious example that kind of throws a wrench in solve strategy. Mm-hmm. And that's something that, bots could certainly play on Run It Once, but they have to be built differently. Or the user who's looking at real-time assistance, just when there's a splashed hand, just has to figure it out on their own. And that gives us a means for detection as well. We don't have that is just figuring it out on their own is kind of
that is getting them out of real-time assistance, basically,
Yeah.
to some degree, and that's the ultimate goal. What's your opinion in terms of if you could magically snap your fingers and draw the line on what sort of real-time assistance existed for online poker, where's the ideal point? Like, do you think there should be no HUDs? Do you think there should be no solvers? Obviously, we're not putting the genie back in the bottle, but what is your vision for how the ideal game of poker works online?
I mean, if I could snap my fingers and make all of it disappear, I probably would, because then you have no risk of running into things like that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with HUDs. We don't allow HUDs at Run It Once, but it was just what we wanted for our site. It was a policy and feature decision, and it makes us somewhat unique, less so today than when we decided on it, but still a little bit unique. Solvers, I mean, they're out there. They're a really good tool to use to study. I guess if you're asking, are you asking, where's the line between what should be allowed and what shouldn't be allowed?
Yeah, I guess it's more of an ethical question than a practical one. What should, you're the operator of a poker site. What's your vision for what poker should be? And then, do you kind of keep yourself in the box of, okay, this is where poker has been going, we're going to try and stay along this path? Or do you start with the vision of, okay, this is what I think poker should be, and then figure out a way to get there?
So we started with, this is off topic of bots specifically, but building our room, we started with, poker sites have been the same-ish since, 2003. And we should, the landscape is different, and we should innovate in a lot of ways. And so we had a lot of policies and features that didn't exist anywhere else. And so we kind of built the poker site that we felt, how things should be for today. It's been a challenge because people are really resistant to change. And I've spoken to so many players who don't play on Run It Once because of Splash the Pot, because they're like, I don't know how to play these. Like, I haven't solved these. I haven't studied them. I don't know how to play in these spots. So I'm going to stick with what.
Foreign to me. That's like the opposite of, when I was coming up, we were all excited for like new games, new formats, new anything. It was like, ooh, I get to figure this out faster than everybody else.
There also was a lot more money to go around, though. Like, if you figured it out faster, people would still play you. So then you get to win a lot until other people catch up. I don't feel like it like the edges are smaller everywhere. And I feel like people are really trying to just make their money in the little area that they're the best at and not really straying too far from that. But
it sort of comes back to like how there used to be those challenges where people would kind of bash heads against other good regs and not really know who's the best, but they'd do it to hone their game and figure it out. And it seems like it's almost a different, a lot of the fat has been trimmed off the environment now, and everything's a little bit leaner, and people are just kind of much more, risk averse. Yeah.
Well, also, as far as Splash the Pot, we came up at a time where you got good by figuring it out on your own. And a lot of today's players got good by studying and implementing solver strategies. And so, it's one of the things that caught me the most off guard, because I was projecting too much, imagining, what I would think, not just as me now, but in the early days of my career and at every point, and people I knew coming up. But
we're old.
Yeah,
it's like we're past it. We're no longer. We don't understand what today's grinder is all about, I guess.
No, but part of it is like we all remember what it was like when poker was really, really great, and you're just trying to get a little bit of that back, and make it a little bit less about studying every spot.
Can we just relive our glory days a little bit on Run It Once Poker? Can we just go
You
I
can.
don't even want to say it.
I can't. That's a question that I wanted to ask you because we just recently got really good news in the US that another state is on board. Michigan is going to have online poker. And refreshingly, because the other states took a very, very long time to launch their sites and also to link up with other states, it looks like Michigan's going to launch and link up with other states almost immediately. What would it take for Run It Once to come to the US? Is it the question of like 10 states being on board, one of the really big ones, California, New York, something like that? What would make it worth it for you guys to get licensing in the US?
I do think that poker's coming to more and more states in the coming years. I think we're going to see more of that. And hopefully, they follow in those footsteps and link up with other states pretty quickly, because that's going to be critical to the success of online poker in the US is larger player pools, and maybe one day link up to players outside of the US. I don't really know if that's in the cards or not. As far as Run It Once, I mean, frankly, we just need a ton more money. It's really expensive to not just get the licenses, but then enter a small, smaller geographic, just smaller player base, and then get enough liquidity. You have to do a lot of marketing. It's just extremely expensive. And I don't think, I think that the expected value for a poker site of getting in the US right now, for the most part, is long-term. It's you want to get in now, you want to establish yourself as a leader in the states that are legal so that when more states open up, you have the head start. But I don't think even for sites, even if we had, $100 million right now to spend, I don't think we'd see that EV anytime. Like, you'd be pouring it in. You wouldn't see it back anytime soon.
If you had to handicap it as a poker operator, do you think, first of all, that it's working towards eventually 50 statewide, or, I guess there's Puerto Rico too, but like an entire US wide ecosystem? And if that is where you see it going, how long do you think it takes?
I don't know. I would imagine, at least on the current path, there'll be a handful of states at least that stay out. But sports betting has come back in a big way, and I don't see a great reason, potentially other than lobbying, why poker wouldn't follow.
Sorry, I want to clarify the question. Do you think the states stay out of a liquidity sharing agreement but have their own poker, or do you think there are states that stay out of poker entirely? What I'm getting at is, do you think the US will be one ecosystem again at some point in the future, and have maybe more than half the states or most of the states involved in this singular US poker ecosystem online?
Gotcha. I was saying I think a few just stay out of poker. Okay. And I should also clarify that I am far from an expert here, and nobody that I've talked to really knows, but I would guess that more than half the states, but certainly less than all the states, would be offering poker and liquidity sharing. I don't know how many years, in 5 years. I mean,
that's optimistic.
Okay, wow.
That sounds optimistic to me, because I remember on Black Friday, I was a lawyer and I had quit my job already, and I was going for my 2 weeks, and it was a nightmare. I was like, it'll be fine. It's going to be like within a few months. Like, they're just trying to get their tax revenue, and I understand it. People have been skirting paying taxes. And I would have lost my entire net worth.
You just go from we've all to whatever people have been skirting taxes. Do you want to admit to any other crimes on this podcast, Jamie?
Think so. No, I think I'm going to stay out of that. I'll keep it vague and say, some people. I think that now I'm all tripped up, Ben. Ben, you're fired.
Just a quick question, Phil. Does she have that power? I need to know how nice to be.
She does. She has seniority, and she can fire you.
Nice. All right, okay. Ben. This is really helping my friendship with Ben a lot, knowing this. But I really thought at the time, I would have bet my net worth that it was at the most going to be a year or two before we got online poker back. And I absolutely cannot believe that it's been 10 years and that it's going this slowly. But yeah, if it were in 5 years, if we had most states on board, I'd be thrilled with that, especially because each time a new state comes on, it's amazing for a little while at least. So it's not just we're holding out for it to be the whole country. It's really fun to get a new state involved, people who haven't played poker online in years and years hopping on. And it feels like the poker economy is doing well for a little bit at least.
When are you moving to Michigan?
My sister lives in Michigan and I went to school at University of Michigan. So I feel like I'll be there quite a bit, trying to get some of that like easy money for a month or two. It's a lot easier than studying at runoncpoker.com.
She's lying. Studying at Run It Once Poker is incredibly easy and productive.
Thank you. All right. She can't fire you for 2 weeks now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Every time you shill, you buy yourself a little bit more time.
So. Oh, I understand what my role is here very, very well. And I'm greatly looking forward to getting to toy around with Vision. I think that it seems like an interesting tool. I guess maybe I'm wrong about this because I haven't actually gotten a chance to try it, but it seems like it's in kind of the same grouping as like maybe like a DTO, where it's less of a solver and it's almost like a gamified solution, right? Is that
kind of? I think honestly, and I mean I'm biased, but I think it does a lot more because I think it's kind of both. Okay. Where you're, and I mean, I can honestly say that we really liked it. I really like it because I was using it before it was a Run It Once product. The developer released it on his own, and we partnered with him because we thought it was such a great product. Vision is, you have a mode where you're playing. You also have modes where you can, kind of reference solves, but I find it easier to look through spots in Vision than Munker Solver. Personally, the difference, of course, is you're limited to the solutions that we've already come up with. And if you want different bet sizes or don't agree with the pre-flop ranges or whatever it may be, then that's the only limitation. But I think Vision is short of, besides that limitation, I think it's just a much more user-friendly version of a solver and practice space.
So you said that this was actually a tool. I was going to ask if you were involved in the development, but it sounds like somebody else developed it and then you kind of snapped it up to be a part of Run It Once. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I mean, we've worked with him to work on the design and add features, but yeah, the core, most of it was already there before we entered the picture.
Interesting. Okay.
So Ben, unless you have something else, I wanted to end on a really cheesy pre-Valentine's Day kind of question. If we're pivoting away from poker, one of my favorite tweets you ever made, a guy named John Pavlovitz said, "Name a really good decision you made in your life," and you said, "Replied to some rando on here 8 years ago," and we'll put the tweet up. It says, "Extremely happy with the way I played, met lots of cool people, and enjoyed playing the entire game. Honestly, not upset in the slightest." And Farah said, "I'm a gal who's fond of your spirit," which is so cheesy and cute. And you just responded, "Nice." So I have a couple questions with this. What were you talking about in the original tweet? Were you playing a televised game that she was watching? Was she a fan of poker? How did this all start?
I was playing the main event, and she was a fan of poker. She'll tell a very long backstory that I'll skip for now. But yeah, she was a fan of poker, following, I don't know, a couple handfuls of poker players. And I think she's said to me since that, main event bust out tweets were mostly negative and whiny. And she said she found mine refreshing, which is why she replied. She says she had never at that point replied to somebody that she didn't know personally on Twitter. So that was our first interaction. I had just busted out of the main event. Did
you know who she was at that point?
No idea.
This is cool. Yeah. Yay, Twitter. And then how did it go from there? So you just responded with "nice." And then did she like slide into your DMs? It was like, "Sup?"
No, it was slow. It was, that was it for that interaction. Mm-hmm. And there was like, she was liking a lot of my tweets, which I was kind
suspicious.
Yeah, exactly. At the time, I actually took that to mean more than it did, because I'd never, at that point in Twitter, like I never liked any.
You tweets. Had never had a simp at that point?
Yeah, no. And so but yeah, she liked a bunch of tweets, and then eventually later she, I don't know, responded to another one, and we had a bit of a back and forth, And then eventually I followed her back. It was pretty slow.
Whoa, you weren't even following her? Oh my God, power
No.
move.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Obviously, it was definitely the right play. But yeah, it was actually like months, many months before, I think 6 months before we met each other, if I had to guess.
Nice. And then a follow-up question to that. When Spencer's old enough, are you going to tell him that his mother is a reply guy?
Do you know what any of these terms mean, Phil?
Not that one, no.
Okay.
Here's yes.
Okay. All right. We can educate you right now. Reply guys when it like responds to everything someone posts. So like if I was like, hey, I'm walking my dog, they're like, nice. And they'll be like, yo, just got a latte. Like, cool. So
that's,
yeah,
that was kind of me. I was the nice, but I guess I was first.
And that's what matters. If you're not first, you're last. So on that note, thank you, Phil, for coming on your own podcast. This has been a real treat for me to do this before Jamie fires me. I'm glad we got you on first.
You get 2 weeks. He said you get 2 weeks. That's 2 more podcasts.
Yeah, but I mean, we could have had 3 other guests, and then I could have just not gotten a stay of execution from the boss himself if I hadn't gotten that plug-in. So thank you again for your time, and I'm looking forward to one of not those 5 people taking it personally and for the challenge to start up again, because as a fan of poker, I think it's great and exciting and fun to watch.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and thanks for thinking it's fun to watch. I want to play again.
Yeah, and I just want to make a note, Colin, if you're listening right now, can you please delete any crimes I've admitted to on this podcast? Thank you.